Krishna devotees, welcome to BhagavatSanga program. Today, today our theme is prayers of personified Vedas. These are beautiful prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 87. Today we have two very wonderful devotees who will be presenting the prayers, the verses, and their understanding and their realizations. So please welcome Amruta Mataji and Amit Prabhu for presenting. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I will begin by chanting the prayers. So, Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Dinamile Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. My humble obeisances to all those who have assembled online. Jai Subhadra Mataji and your association as well. I'm very thankful to Veena Mataji for reaching out to us and giving us this opportunity to present today. And not only for presenting, but for giving us an opportunity to ponder on this topic for the past few weeks. There's so much, I would say, big shoes to fill in. Like you all have been discussing this topic for quite some time now. So coming in and kind of trying to meet that bar. So we spent a lot of time thinking about this topic, which itself was a blessing in disguise. We also went and watched all the previous recordings, and my heartiest gratitude to all the speakers who spoke before this. You have done a wonderful justice to the topic, not only by your efforts, but also the effortless delivery of the subject matter. After watching all of that and hearing all the speakers, I don't think I'm qualified to be speaking today at all. But since Mataji have given the opportunity, I'll make an humble attempt. We'll make an humble attempt. And in the process, if there are any mistakes, please graciously accommodate them, and we can learn from this process. I'll begin by moving on. So throughout the course of Bhagavatam, there are several prayers that have been explicitly sung by exalted devotees to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have prayers by Queen Kunti in Canto 1, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is leaving for Dwarka. In Canto 4, we have the song sung by Lord Shiva as part of his instructions to the Prachetas who were embarking on a severe penance. And then in Canto 5, we have prayers offered by the various residents of the different planets or varshas of Jambudvipa to the respective incarnations of the Lord in each varsha. So, for example, prayers offered by Prahlad Maharaj and his residents like him to Lord Narasimha Deva. And then in Canto 6, we have the Hamsa Guhya prayers offered to the Lord by Prajapati Daksha. And there are many other instances, right? Each of these prayers have one thing in common. They help us visualize the Lord's form and establish the Lord as a supreme. Because it is so difficult for us to see the Lord face to face, these prayers and other narrations throughout Bhagavatam and other bona fide scriptures help bridge that gap for us, right? We are not able to see the Lord, but through these prayers, through the descriptions, we can start visualizing, we can start focusing on the form of the Lord. They're so beautiful. You can actually start meditating on that form of the Lord by simply reading these prayers again and again. The song sung by Lord Shiva that I described earlier is my personal favorite. As part of the instructions in Canto 4, Chapter 24, Shloka 28, Lord Shiva, before describing his prayers to the Lord, to the Prachetas, says that any person who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the controller of everything, material nature as well as the living entity, is very dear to me. So Lord Shiva is directly establishing the authority of Krishna as the controller of everything. In Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna is described as Purushottama. He's the enjoyer, Purusha, and the supreme, Uttama. And he's the enjoyer of everything, right? The Prakriti, the Purusha. And then being influenced by the three modes of material nature, we, the living entity, try to dominate this material nature. Uh, but Krishna is not affected by all of that. As described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, shloka 5. Aparayam itastva anyam prakritim viddhi me param. So even though the Lord is associated with we are associated with the material energy, and we try to lord it over our material nature, but Krishna is totally disassociated from that. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, shloka 7. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha mana shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karashiti. The living, and the translation is, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragments. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. By endeavoring to dominate material nature, the living entity is simply struggling hard for their existence. Indeed, we struggle so hard to enjoy that, we cannot really enjoy the material happiness as well. We are always thinking about what is next, what is next, what is next. Now you may be wondering, why am I talking about all of this background? As a context to the prayers by the Personified Vedas, Parishit Maharaj had a question about how the Personified Vedas, which represent all that you need to make yourself comfortable materially, can actually glorify and offer prayers in direct conversation with the Lord. And why the Lord in the previous chapter is asking the devotees to go and follow the Vedas as part of one of the processes, instead of recommending the bhakti process directly to them. And this is a natural question that comes to Parishit Maharaj, because he has spent so much time with Sukdev Goswami so long, and Sukdev Goswami has described to him all these prayers, and he's slowly disassociating himself from the material things. And then all of a sudden the Lord is asking devotees to go and start reading the Vedas and follow those for material happiness. So as the speakers before this session have described very nicely how this could be possible, I wanted to share some thoughts that came to my mind when I was pondering on this very valid inquiry. And one analogy that struck my mind that helped me a little bit to understand this was, just like a child, who needs a candy or a new toy, pesters by various mechanisms, from a spectrum of, requesting nicely and talking real sweet words, to the other end of the spectrum by throwing tantrums until the parent finally relents. And then once the toy is provided, the child plays with it for a few hours, maybe days, and finally that toy is tossed out, right? The parent knows that this is going to be the outcome, that this toy is going to be useless after a few instances, but still they provide them that toy. So we in this material world are just like the child hankering behind the so-called happiness, while Krishna, through the means of various injunctions and the Vedas, tells us the right way to enjoy the material facilities, and then grants us the means to enjoy them, including this body with all the senses, and the right use of them to enjoy the material facilities. Because he knows that one day, after ages and ages of enjoying the same thing, life after life, birth after birth, will probably one day get bored. And just like that child, will probably toss away the material hankering. In case of the child, they'll probably move on to another toy, but in case of the Jivatma, they'll probably think, what's the use of all this? What's the purpose of all of this? And then begin the inquisition process that will bring us close to Krishna. So out of the various prayers of the Personified Vedas, I'll describe the three that I really thought hard on and wanted to present today. So the first prayer, I'll read the prayer. I'll read that shloka, and then Amruta will read the translation. So it goes as, it's 16th verse from the 87th chapter, canto 10. इति तव सूर्यस्त्य अधिपते अखिल लोकमाल शपन कथामृताब्धिम अवगाय तपांसि जहु किम उत पुनः स्वधाम विदुतास्य काल गुणाः परम भजन्ति ये पदम अजाश्रु सुखानुभावम. Translation.
Therefore, O master of three worlds, the wise get rid of all misery by diving deep into the nectarine ocean of topics about you, which washes away all the contamination of the universe. Then what to speak of those who, having by spiritual strength rid their minds of bad habits and freed themselves from time, are able to worship your true nature, O Supreme One, finding within it uninterrupted bliss?
So, in this sloka, the Shrutis or the Vedas are giving us an indirect hint that no matter how you leverage the things described in the Vedas to attain the best possible material comfort through, Vedic practices, sacrifices, meditation practices, a living entity will be a fool unless they immerse themselves in the topic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, after giving this indirect hint, one question that arises is like, okay, how does one hear and dive deep into these topics? And we have heard this many a times from our gurus, Jai Subhadra Mataji, Satyasar Prabhu, and various other speakers during our Sunday Feast program, that hearing about Krishna, diving deep into the topics of Krishna, cannot be an effort in solitude, right? It can only be possible in the association of devotees. Sessions like this can be an enforcing function to spend more time on the topics about Krishna, not only from hearing it from other people, but in this case, thinking about the topic, preparing the material for it and speaking, that leads to some deep thinking and assimilation of the information that is bound to stay with us for a longer time. I sincerely believe a person must revive his Krishna consciousness to be relieved of the suffering caused by ignorance. But the process by which this is done doesn't have to be difficult, as Lord Chaitanya through the Sankirtana movement is telling us, right? Krishna is assuring us in the Bhagavad Gita as well, chapter 9, shloka 34. Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvayam vayam atmanam mad parayana. Engage your mind in always thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. The next sloka I wanted to describe is a continuation of the same theme. The Shrutis also describe that by hankering behind the material endeavors, even though we are following the Vedas, they're describing that the futility of the material endeavors, if not dovetailed in the service of the Lord, is very useless. So I'll quickly chant this sloka and then we'll read the translation. Drutya eva swashantya asubhruto yadite anuvidha mahad ham adayo andam asrujan yad anugrahatah purusha vidonvyotra karamo annamayadishu yah sad asatah param tvam atha yad eshva avasheshamrutam.
Translation: only if they become your faithful followers are those who breathe actually alive. Otherwise, their breathing is like that of a bellows. It is by your mercy alone that the elements, beginning with the Mahat Tattva and false ego, created the egg of this universe. Among the manifestation known as Annamaya and so forth, you are the ultimate one, entering within the material coverings along with the living entity and assuming the same forms as those he takes. Distinct from the gross and subtle material manifestations, you are the reality underlying them all.
So if we think about this verse, this human life that we have received is once in a million opportunity. We don't get human birth on a regular basis. We have to go through so many other births to finally get a human body. And if we don't take advantage of this life to realize our true purpose, then as described in this verse, every breath we take is no better than the breathing of a blacksmith's bellows. Taking this analogy further, the bellow has a very specific purpose as part of the blacksmith's process, right? It is supplying oxygen to keep the fire going, which then softens the iron, and then the blacksmith can mold the piece of the iron into whatever shape he wants to mold it to. So let's use our breath, our sadhana, to focus on the message, the glories of the Lord, through the association of a blacksmith molding the iron. In this case, the blacksmith can be our Shiksha Guru, can be our association of learned devotees. That way, we can mold our activities in the service at the lotus feet of Krishna and thereby achieve the ultimate purpose of life. In the beginning, I mentioned about the different prayers that were offered by the exalted devotees and how one can meditate on the Lord through the repeated chanting of those prayers. In the final verse that I'd selected for this session, I wanted to touch on that aspect as well. So we'll quickly chant the shloka and then read the translation before diving into the subject matter of it. So it goes as Udaram upasateya rushivartmasu kurpadashdushaha parisara paddatim rudayam arunayodaharam tata udgad anantavadhama shirah paramam punarhayat sametya napatanti krutantamukhe. Translation.
Among the followers of the method set forth by great sages, those with less refined vision worship the Supreme as present in the region of the abdomen, while Arunis worship him as present in the heart, in the subtle center from which all the pranic channels emanate. From there, O unlimited Lord, these worshippers raise their consciousness upward to the top of the head, where they can perceive you directly. Then, passing through the top of the head toward the supreme destination, they reach that place from which they will never again fall to this world into the mouth of death.
So, in this verse, the Shrutis that or the Vedas that focus on meditational yoga are given an opportunity to glorify the Lord. And as part of the glorification prayers, they're making a very clear distinction on the meditational practices, right? They're calling out that the meditational practices that focus on the lower centers of vital energy, such as the Muladhara chakra, which is the base of the spine, the Swadhisthana chakra, the navel area, or the Manipura chakra, which is the abdomen. All these practices are of lower nature, right? When we are sitting for guided meditations and people ask to focus on, these parts, Shrutis are saying that these are of lower nature. But the one that focuses on the chakra of the heart is better. And so I was thinking about why they are explicitly calling out that if you're sitting down for meditation, then focus on the chakra of the heart. Why is that better? And the reason I feel is because the Lord, as Paramatma, resides along with Jivatma in the heart. Right? We all know the description of how the human body is compared to a tree full of fruits. And then on that tree, there are two birds sitting. One is the living entity. And then the other bird is the Lord as a super soul who is sitting on that tree. So this same Lord as a super soul is residing in our heart. And the individual is eating the fruit of the tree, but the super soul Lord is witnessing the activities of that other bird. So thus, by focusing our attention on the core of the heart where the super soul is already present, we can then achieve more progress if we do decide to use the meditational path as described in the Vedas for our spiritual progress. After all, we always say, right, like when in doubt, whether to listen to your heart or to your brain, always listen to your heart. That's because when we sit still and drop all inhibitions and all fear and take shelter of the Supreme who is residing in that heart, then we always get the correct answers. And the Supreme is giving us the instructions, but we are so busy, we are so moving at a rapid pace that we do not always listen to it, right? We always go by the thought process of brain. And then after a while we lament, oh, why did I not listen to what my heart was really telling me? It can be as simple as, making the biggest decision of a life, making career choices, and so on and so forth. Now again, sitting down for meditation in solitude is very, very hard, right? In this day and age, we can make an attempt as part of our sadhana to do this. But I think the best way to meditate on the topics of the Lord goes back to the first verse we discussed, which is through the association of devotees, immersing ourselves in the Sankirtan, the Kirtan, the songs of the God, the scriptures that has been made available to us by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And then by doing these activities, invoke that love for God in our hearts, and then offer all our activities in His service. Be it as simple as cooking food and offering it as prasadam, or going to the temple and doing our bit of service, doing book distribution. Those are all small ways of always associating and meditating on the Lord. The reason I selected these three verses was because they appeal very close to my attempt at and our attempt at being trying our best to bring Krishna into our daily lives by being regular in chanting, even if it's 2 rounds of the Maha Mantra, but doing it consistently, reading 15 to 20 minutes of the scriptures such as Bhagavatam on a daily basis, doing kirtan in the evening so that our kids listen to it again and again, and then the love of Godhead also starts developing in them. So these 3 shlokas reinforced what we are doing is the right thing to do and to keep doing it, which is why I wanted to share them with you all today. And then finally, I would like to conclude my time by reciting Srila Swami's prayer in one of the purports as part of this verses. The prayers are Nara Vapu Pratipadya Vadi Tvai Shravana Varnana Samsmaranadi Bihi Nara Hare Na Bhajantri Drunam Idam Dritivat Uchvasitam Vifalam Tataha. Translation.
O Lord Narhari, persons who have attained this human form live uselessly, merely breathing like bellows. If they fail to worship you by hearing about you, chanting your glories, remembering you, and performing the other devotional practices. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Mataji. That was a very nice presentation, very beautiful. Prabhu, you nicely started with the significance of the prayers, why the prayers are recited throughout the Bhagavatam. And then you gave the nice context to these prayers of why Parikshit Maharaj was asking the questions. And you very nicely picked up 3 beautiful verses and you connected them, that, the significance of devotional service, mainly hearing and chanting, is important, and how the next verse, the human life is so rare, and we have to, do sincere sadhana so that we can progress on this path. And finally, how you said the super soul is why we focus on the heart, the chakra, and how with the association of devotees, we have to glorify the Supreme Lord. And all the devotional service, you mainly focused on saying how important the devotional service is. So very nice class, Prabhu and Mataji, and very nicely shared realizations. It was really very nice to hear. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Mataji. With
Thank you,
that,
For giving us opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for accepting. With that, devotees, we conclude the BhagavatSanga program today. We will see you all next week. And we do have one other sign up. So, yes, we will continue with prayers of Personified Vedas next week as well. With that, thank you all so much for joining today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, thanks, Prabhu and Mataji. Very like Veena Mataji said, you connected it, made it very practical application of it. No, otherwise these verses are hard, but how to apply them practically. Wonderful. Thank you so much.